Test?
Okay, it is now. Okay. We're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council work session meeting. It is April 13th, 2023. The time is 6 p.m. Today's work session is a budget work session for Town of Narragansett FY 2024 budget with staff to discuss the following budgets: Fire, Police, Public Works, Road Bond Fund, Galilee Landing, Finance, General Revenue, Debt Service, Pension, and OPEB. This is the third out of three. This is the last budget work session that we're having. We will have a public hearing on May 1st. So the first budget that's going to be presented is by Chief Partington. It's for Fire.
Oh, there we are. Okay, good evening. I just have a few slides to present this evening, and I will get through them as quickly as possible. So I do thank you for the time. You know how I am. I just like to present a little bit of information as we go along through this work session. So thanks. So this is the presented budget presentation for the 23-24 year. Just a couple of quick reviews on the services that the fire department provides. I'm sure you're aware of some of them. Some of them you may not be. And this is for the public as well. Emergency medical services, of which we do quite a bit. Fire suppression and protection, search and rescue, marine emergency operations, hazardous material operations. We have been doing a lot of public education and community outreach. Fire protection is a busy division, and they are working with code enforcement inspections, investigations, and a lot of plan reviews and permitting as well. Just a quick overview of our department, the way we're currently structured. It's the fire chief, and then we have the administrative assistant, Judy. She really runs the place at times. And then we have two administrative captains, one of which is in charge of the overall operations of the department, and the other is our fire marshal, Captain Tuthill, who is in charge of the fire prevention division. And then underneath them, we're split up into 4 platoons or shifts. Each of them has a supervisory captain, along with supervising 4 lieutenants under them and 5 firefighters. So currently, right now, we have the 2 administrative officers. There's 20 line officers and 20 firefighters, and one administrative assistant, and including myself, there's 44 members of the department. So just a quick little brief on the staffing levels. You know, going back to when I was hired 32 plus years ago in 91. So 1990, 91 is really when we had our first expansion of our department. We added 16 on the department and opened up our north and south end fire stations permanently 24/7 and staffed them. So we haven't really done anything as far as adding additional staffing until fairly recently. In September of 21, we were awarded that $2.8 million SAFER grant, Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, and it added 8 additional firefighters. So currently there are 8 additional firefighters that are added. That's how we got to the 44 members we have now. And that covers benefits and wages, and this is important as I just kind of go through the operating budget quickly. Until February 1 of 2025, that performance period ends. So the finance director had brought this up in a previous introductory proposal to the budget last council meeting, I believe, right, Chris? In 24-25 fiscal year, there's a consideration for filling that gap, which will exist in that budget year of $500,000 to cover those wages and benefits for those 8 new firefighters that were hired. And then the preceding fiscal year in 25-26, there'll be upwards of $1 million consideration to cover those wages and benefits.
Can you repeat that? I was going to ask a question about the SAFER grant for the 4 firemen that would be not taken care of or planned for. So what's the strategy for that? There'll be 500,000?
Well, the strategy, I can just tell you the approximate costs. You know, right now, the performance period of that grant ends come February 1 of 2025. So we'll be halfway into that budget or fiscal year by then. So there would be a gap of $500,000 within wages and benefits to account for, if, to provide for those 8 additional firefighters that are currently hired. Is that pretty much sum it up, Chris?
Yes, so that $500,000 has to go in the general operating. If we're going to keep the 8 firefighters,
Yeah,
you're going to have
I
to.
just was looking at the plan to make sure that we planned ahead for those 8.
Well, that's the 4% tax
Okay, I
levy
just-
increase.
Okay,
But, yeah.
I got it.
And in '26, it would be over $1 million additional, just for the 8 firefighters.
Thank you, I missed it.
Sure.
When this original grant was instituted, one of the things that we talked about was that of these new 8 firefighters, what we might do is use them to replace firefighters that might retire sometime between now and 2025, not necessarily maintain the numbers that we have now. Isn't that not correct?
Well, that could be an option for the town if they so choose to go that way, but up until the end of the performance period of the grant, we are obligated in which to be able to
Right.
keep them, yes.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so that's just something that we have to work out over the course of the next couple of years.
Yes, when the grant expires at the end of January, February 1st of 2025, there'll no longer be funding for them unless the next fiscal year
Right.
budget they're put in. At that point, somewhere between the end of this budget and the next budget, we'll have to enter into negotiations with the union as far as what they're being used for, if they're retained,
Right.
and if it's the council's wish to retain them. And then, of course, the administration would have to work out a contract with them as far as.
So we have to, what we would have to do in the interim is figure out, how this whole process ended up working on behalf of the town, and then make an intelligent, decision about what we want to do going forward. It's not automatic that we're going to go ahead and take $500,000 and keep these folks on. We just need to know, or keep those positions, it's not the people, it's the positions in place, depending on what our need is. That's really the way this works, right?
Correct, and we've already begun talking about where we will be in the next budget as far as if they're maintained in their current status or what the alternatives could be.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yep, and I just thought it was important to bring up, especially as as you consider that 4% increase going forward. So currently, the minimum staffing of eight firefighters on duty between the November 1st right through until April 30th, and then under the terms of the SAFER agreement that we've worked out currently with Local 1589, it would increase to 10 firefighters come May 1st, and that's coming up shortly, right through the summer months into the end of October 31st. NFD responds to over about 3,600 calls for service annually, and our call volume, if you look at it over the course of the last 20 years, has at least tripled during that time frame. Just a quick note, I do like to promote us, as you know. So we are a Class 3 ISO classification rating. We worked hard to obtain that. And I spoke quite a bit on that in the past, and we're working towards making that even better. And I think we can attain class level 2. We just have a few little things we need to work on to adjust that. This is just a quick slide showing most of what we do, which is a lot of rescue EMS work. Generally, it's about 2/3 of the work that we do, so that's the shaded green area. And there's all the other stuff that we do that's kind of grouped in there. So if I just get into the main points of the operating budget for the 23-24 breakdown of the budget, much of it is consumed by, as you know, personnel, wages, and benefits, and then there's other other energy goods and services and maintenance of the building. So if we look at it, there's really three main areas, or four areas, but the total general fire budget, and we can go through that if you like, is really overall just an increase of just 0.7%. So it's essentially being level funded. And Chris can explain kind of some of the reasons behind that, and it has to do with a lot of the reduction in pension costs, I believe, that have occurred as a result of some retirements of some of the older guys like myself who have been hanging around over the years. Any questions? No? Okay.
You're all looking at me. Did you want me to explain more? You good? Okay, thank you.
And the total non-firefighter section of the budget is, that's a new sheet that Chris had kind of given you. In that section, you'll find that there is it's essentially the fire secretary's administrative position for the fire department and what she needs to run that. There is another item under the wages for full-time wages, which is a part-time wage that's been removed. So in effect, that's been reduced. That overall budget in that non-firefighter category has been reduced. So we're looking at around a 1.4% increase to 2% increase. And that's all because of CBA. That position is within the collective bargaining agreement with Local 1589, and there's a 2% wage increase that will be coming their way this fiscal year. And the other one is in EMA, and the increases associated with that EMA category have to do with some requests for increase in part-time wages for the EMA specialist's position. I think most of you are familiar with the work we've been doing in the EMA, and it's been vital, and it's been working out quite well. So we're looking for a moderate increase in there. And then I can go through more specifics in the budget with fire, if you'd like, before I move on to capital. So if there's any questions within the general fire budget section.
Can I just ask one question?
Yep.
In the fire, non-fire, it shows under the 2024 manager column, it says $21,000 that in the part-time wages section. Should that not be there?
In the EMA?
Yeah.
Yes, that's being.
No, not in the EMA, in the fire, non-firefighter.
Yeah, that's the one that's being cut. It was determined by the fire chief not to maintain,
Okay,
not
so
to
that's-
add that. So
and
that's
that-
coming
and the
out,
new number
21,000 is
is
coming
90,
out.
okay.
Yeah, that's in the
I got it.
non-firefighter
Okay. Sorry,
portion of the budget.
that's fine.
So that's been removed. So general fire,
I have, one question, Chief. The SAFER grant pays for the 8 firefighters for 3 years, right?
Correct.
Basically outfits them outside of a few, maybe some equipment or whatever it is, or maybe some other items the town had to kick in for, I believe. But does that show on a line item? Like, why wouldn't it be way up one year? Like, does it show in the negative amount where that grant comes in, or is it just like a wash? It doesn't show up in this budget? How does
It
that work?
doesn't show up in this budget, it's in
It
a
doesn't?
grant. Yeah, so they're not in this fire budget at all. They're in a
So-
grant.
And there's another line item for grants
It's-
somewhere?
It's not included in the general operating fund. The
Oh.
grant is a wash, expenses
All right,
in.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't
so
even show up at this point?
It's not even showing up at this point, correct?
Yeah, because I mean, I can see, the overtime wages are, a lot further down because obviously there's more firefighters to take up the place, and that's a good thing.
yes, and there has been a significant reduction in the overtime costs that have occurred, and it's reflective in the budget currently right now. And as I have some greater detail, I can provide you at on a sidebar if you'd like to see some of that. I have a complete breakdown of where that is and the savings on it.
Yeah.
So if
that's
anyone's
good. That's
interested in
great,
it.
it's a good, it's a nice grant to have, and then in case people retire, we can have replacements already trained. Thank you.
So no questions on general? There's the fire, non-firefighter in the 51522. And again, Chris has mentioned that part-time wage category is being removed. So generally, it's essentially level funded outside of the 2% wage increase that's coming to that position next fiscal year. The next one is under okay, okay. The general fire EMA. Within that category, there's the part-time wage, that first line, and 50102. And there, I'm essentially looking for a part-time wage increase that amounts to about $7,600. That's the increase. So we had budgeted 20, and with the wage increase, it would go up to 28,261. Yes. And then the down in the line item 50315, where it's under professional development, I had originally budgeted a $3,200 for that line, and I'm looking to request that be adjusted and take $2,500 of that and move it over to the fire professional development account, which is in the general 521 under number 50315. So it would essentially add another $2,500 to that one. I've identified a need where that $2,500 for professional development would be better served within the fire department's professional development line. The $2,500 was being appropriated for professional development for EMA to attend hurricane conferences and things like that. And I don't have intention in which to attend that. I had previously gone to four or so of them in the past. So there's not a need there. So I'm essentially asking that would be moved to the fire department's professional development. We've had more of a need there lately in that category. So that would leave 700 left within that line item, and that would cover some of the minor EMA professional development fees that would be needed for attending classes that are free in, say, Emmitsburg, Maryland, at the Emergency Management Institute. You just have to pay the general fee to provide for the food plan and transportation down there, mileage, things like that. And I will say that I continue to apply for EMPG funding, which is Emergency Management Preparedness Grant funding. The Rhode Island EMA has been pretty generous with me in supporting that. That is a 50-50 match. So I generally will ask for, last year we received $12,500 in additional part-time wages, but you have to match that. So, and you have to show at least that much within your EMA budget for wages before they'll even consider you for that grant. So it's important to maintain a wage category within that. So the next one is in fire prevention. We had this fiscal year, we had moved what was formally categorized as capital projects into this fire prevention account, and a lot of the operating supplies, equipment repairs, goes specifically towards the maintenance of the things that the fire marshal needs to be able to support his division. Most of those are equipment-related matters, as well as maintenance matters of some of his ongoing equipment within this division. So that is essentially my operating budget. It's pretty much level funded throughout. There are some moderate increases. If there's any questions on the operating, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the council?
fee. We'll move on to capital.
Capital, yes.
In the, oh, yes. Yep. Okay. Oops. Sorry. So for capital, there was one slide in my slideshow. I apologize, it didn't come up quite well, but it basically broke down the percentage of where my operating budget goes to. Again, it's about 96% of it goes to wages, benefits, non-discretionary type of items that are contractual that have to be paid. There's about 6%, I call it discretionary, but much of that, half of that probably goes towards some of the things that need supported to maintain operational supplies and maintenance of all the fire stations, equipment, and contracts and things like that. So there's very little left within operating to purchase things such as equipment replacement. So we tend to move towards relying upon capital improvement projects to do that. So those are pretty vital to us. So we have currently in the first capital project, I have the radio equipment syncing fund. That's in project number 1. And this was generated to replace a lot of our radio equipment, portable radios, mobile equipment radios, which are vital. Fairly recently, we were awarded another grant, another AFG grant, which is through the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. We didn't think we were going to get this grant. $350,000, it's huge, a large grant that is going to do just what we were looking to do within this capital project. That'll be on the agenda actually for this coming Monday for the purchase of all that equipment. You've already approved the acceptance of the grant. But there is a 5% match on that purchase. So I am looking to utilize this capital account to provide for that 5% match that we're anticipating for within capital. So that would be right in the neighborhood of $17,000. So that's important. And then going forward, you'll probably see some zeros going on down beyond that, because I don't think we'll need a lot of radios for quite a while in the future. Maybe just some battery replacements, things like that. So so that's an important capital project for us. The next one is the vehicle replacement program. Again, this fiscal year coming up, we were looking for $400,000 for the replacement of one of our vehicles, which is Rescue 3. That's the rescue up in our north end of town. It is a 2010. It's 13 years old. It really should have been replaced several years ago. On average, rescues should be replaced somewhere around 7 years on average. So that is due for replacement. In addition, we were looking to replace an admin vehicle this same fiscal year coming up at $60,000. However, a brand new rescue nowadays runs about $400,000 to replace a rescue. The costs of them have really escalated. So that was in that project. The other capital project, number 3, that I have is another equipment replacement program. This one focuses on EMS-related equipment. Much of it has to do with our monitor defibrillators, CPR compression boards, systems like that, stretchers, and other items that we need for patient care and transport. So this in 23-24, the request was for $40,000 for that, and then going forward. And project number 4 is in your booklet is the station renovation project. I just like to just skip over that one for now, and I'll get back to it for a little bit. And this project number 5 is the AED maintenance program. You had approved this this fiscal year for the support of this project. This is that 4-minute city AED project that was supported. You've heard me talk about it at length in the past. So we're looking to create a sustainment going forward for that, maintenance. Well, I don't want to call it maintenance, but to sustain that project going forward. And it's $14,000 right now for the next 4 years. It was a 5-year contract going forward, and they're holding that price. $14,000. And there are some private donors and other associations who are interested in contributing to this, but I do need to create a funding mechanism for it going forward. And again, these are the 50 AEDs that are coming in, and they'll be distributed townwide through not just the fire department, but through all departments, police, DPW, wastewater as well. I'll work with the town manager and department staff to try to best determine where to place those.
Chief, with this program, you're saying external funding sources for donations and all that. Do you mean just for the first year, or do you mean going forward where you would get, be able to have that funding source, not just this year, next year, or continually?
Well, we've had several that have expressed interest. They haven't quite yet sent us the money. So we're hoping that they'll continue to express the interest, and we can create some kind of donation account earmarked for that going forward. But for the next year, we'll need the $14,000 in which to be able to pay it. The next project is a project related to fire prevention. It's project number 6. That one is a equipment replacement fire alarm receiving and dispatch center. We have a program in place. I'm pretty sure you're all aware of it. That is replacing our overhead cabling system, our fire alarm system, that brings the signaling to the central station, which is in the fire station. And we're trying to replace all that with radio boxes, newer technology, and we're on course to do that. But there are other equipment related to the support of that will need to be replaced in the future, and much of that will be located not just in the fire side of the building, but in the dispatch side of the building to replace some of the needed equipment in there, the digitizers, the computers, and things like that to make upgrades. So there will be a need in the immediate future for that. So speaking with the fire marshal and public safety IT over there, we're trying to build a replacement program to sustain that going forward in the future. So that request was $10,000 for each of those years going forward. Fire project number 7, again, is an equipment replacement project that focuses more on fire suppression related equipment. That is, a lot has to do with the replacement of our SCBA bottles, our self-contained breathing apparatus bottles, cylinders. Many of them are approaching or have approached expiration or being outdated, so they need to be replaced. And also the firefighter turnout gear, as well as hoses, appliances, and some of the mobile data terminals that we use within our apparatus now. The firefighter gear, just the turnout gear, a coat and pants, is $3,700 for just one set right now. That's the current price. So the 18.5 would look to replace upwards of 5 sets of firefighter turnout gear going forward. There is a life expectancy on the gear, as well as the SCBA bottles, and it's important to have a program in place to be able to sustain the replacement of that gear. So the last one I left for last is the, oh, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to chime in before the chief goes a little further so that there's not a misunderstanding, that all the capital projects, with the exception of the station itself, will face restructuring and reduction, could be significantly, before the budget hearing itself, because the ARPA funds have become very fluid now with newer projects that were approved, and then other projects that come in lower that gave us the availability of different funding. And the chief and I have been discussing it with Christine about where the reductions in the capital, which we have identified, but we're still waiting to hear back. There are some costs that we have not determined fully yet for the project that he's going to talk about, because we're in the architectural, engineering phase, and needs phase. And the original, when the original ARPA funds became available, we were primarily under the gun to come up with an estimate for projects. and that one came in much lower than was expected as time went on. So at the budget hearing, you will see a reduction in the fire capital. The information provided is the same, what the value of it is. There will be a reduction of the capital of these projects, except for the station. And then now he's going to go into the big kahuna.
Just to clarify, the reduction is because of less expensive projects coming in, or because we're going to use more ARPA funds for the things that we need to get done?
The capital projects here
Right.
identify some funds. These are not ARPA. We
Oh,
have
right,
the big
right.
one that is ARPA.
Right, I understand.
Some of these will be reduced to fund this major project for the station
Oh, I see,
itself.
okay, okay.
We just don't have those final numbers yet because everything's still evolving, and we won't have a full balance number on the ARPA funds until we fine-tune them over the next couple of weeks with the cost of the station project, and we get some fine-tuned numbers on the water projects and things like
Okay.
that. But we'll
Good.
have those all ready for the council for the hearing.
Thank you.
And Chief, go with the big one.
Okay, yes, sir. So I highlighted that one in red and left that one down on the bottom. It's an extremely important project. You heard me present on it in the past. It's vital to the ongoing, expansion and development and promotion of our department going forward, and addresses a specific gap in need within our community, really, overall. There is a packet on your desks or tables in front of you. There's some pictures on there. So it kind of outlines the project going forward, and on the very back page is a breakdown of the costs. Don't look at that one yet. So again, this is Station 2. I think we all know where it's located. The station was originally built in the 1970s. It has really not gone under any kind of major renovations since really 1990, 91, when I came on, when they opened up the facility. So it was built to accommodate 2 firefighters going forward. Here it is. It houses an engine company and a rescue company. You can see how the trucks barely fit in the station. This is kind of a picture showing how Engine 2 backs up to the back of the rear of the building right now. We have to be careful so we don't hit the building. Trucks are bigger, faster, not so much faster, but bigger, wider, and longer. So some of them have a little trouble fitting in the buildings nowadays. Here's another picture that kind of gives you a view of it, Station 2. So the project is really focused on bumping out that back wall and building out some more space for apparatus, as well as living accommodations and quarters. This is the back of the station. That rescue has since been traded in and sold. We had nowhere to store it, so we just stuck it behind Station 2 for the time being. So that has been traded in. So this is the rear of the station, and this is going to be a build out of the rear of the station. Small little bunk areas. Barely fits a bed right now in one of the bunk areas. This is the actual station. This is what it looks like when it was first built, essentially over 32 plus years ago when they remodeled the station. Same cabinets, same countertops, same living space in that area. These are the pictures that are on your desk. If anybody wants to see a larger blown up plan review of it, it's on the table behind me. They're welcome to look at it. This is kind of a front elevation of it. This is an elevation if you're standing south of the station and looking north. This is that southerly view of the station. Again, this is the rear of the station where it is. And that green, all that green area in the upper right is all new. So that would be the build out, and that would accommodate most of the quarters. If you look in your packet, this project has really been broken down into 3 phases. So looking at the overall costs that were coming back as estimates and going over that with the town manager, as well as the architectural and engineering services firm that is doing this, the town manager basically said, look at this again and break it down and take a phase approach to this project. to try and reduce the cost, the overall costs of it. So we did that, and we broke it down into 3 phases, essentially. So phase 1 would be the priority phase that we need to accomplish for this project. And that would accommodate that shaded area, I think it's orange. And it's basically a build-out of the 4 quarters, along with an office. There's virtually no office space at this station. It would provide the officer with some office space, some additional workout area, utility room, and an additional bathroom. There is only 1 bathroom at this fire station, and it accommodates 4 people. And currently, we have 2 females working on the same shift in this station. There are 3 females altogether in the department. So we're looking to add another bathroom in this facility as well. The rest of here, there's another breakdown here of the 3 phases. So phase 1 is on your left. That's shaded in that orange color, I believe it is. And that's the primary phase in which we're trying to accomplish. Phase 2 was going to add over another $700,000 to the project, in addition to what phase 3 was going to add. So we broke that out. Phase 2 in the middle in the blue was going to accommodate renovation of that kitchen and day room area that you saw that hasn't been renovated in 32 plus years, really. It's made some upgrades, but no major renovations. And then the one off to the right in yellow was going to be a conference or training type of room, which we lack department-wide. We have no training room facilities anywhere. So we were going to try and accommodate a meeting, conference, training type of room at this fire station. So overall, phase 1, if you look on your breakdown of the costs, is being estimated at about $1.1 million. That's all inclusive. That includes the estimated construction costs, the fees involved, the architectural and engineering fees of 9%. That was in the RFP. This firm was awarded that RFP. They've been excellent to work with. They have a lot of knowledge in the area of fire station build-outs, particularly smaller type of renovation projects. So they feel pretty confident with that number, and it's a little bit of a conservative number, meaning, it could come back better once this project goes out to bid for construction. But those are the numbers in which they've given us. So this, working with the town manager and the finance director and the available balance of the opera funds, we're looking to fund this project for this coming year going forward.
What the chief spoke about, the phases, when it first came in, it was the master plan, all 3 phases put in together. And the top priority is the items that are in phase 1. Each phase is independent. If we don't make it to phase 2, phase 1 is still needed. At a future point, we'll address phase 2, if necessary, and potentially phase 3. Phase 1 is necessary at this juncture, and as you can see, the dates on the plans, we've been kind of scrambling with the company. The plans are only a week old that are up there now. So that's what we're working with, and as far as the numbers. And when the funding first came in at, was it 6 or 650? I forgot. It was 6 or 650.
650 we were looking at for just the construction costs alone at the time. And then when we started first planning this, that was several years back, and things have just have escalated since.
So now we're moving around the ARPA funds and that have become more fluid most recently, along with matching or additional funding from the capital plans that are set up going forward. Those we will have more fine-tuned at the hearing.
Great, thank you.
That is essentially, I don't think I have any more pictures for you. Oh, I'm sorry, I had the breakdown of the fees that were involved, but you have a handout for that. So again, it was the building construction subtotal was $857, and then we had the contractors' fees with their overhead, their profit margin, the total of that in addition to the 9%. So that's where the the 1063 was coming in for as a price tag.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
One other comment.
Sure.
Also, I think that this year and next year, this council will be faced with making an intent or a discussion on how to move forward with maintaining additional firefighters. This is part of this project, that if we are going to maintain them, we are going to need that space. And we have female and male firefighters, and we have to have the accommodations for them all. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an important project, I think.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Chief. So it looks like the back portion, it's kind of hard to read with all of that, but this is going to help out with a lot of, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 different bunk rooms, or what, so to speak, so you can, I know it's a co-ed thing now, and there's another, the back left, is that a bathroom back there, and any utility room? It's kind of small to see, but.
Yeah,
Then
it's meant to be a utility room because there'll be upgrades to the HVAC. All of that electrical will be removed into that utility room. And then the other room, and then there's another room next to it that will eventually be converted to a washer room to extract, for a washer to provide for the washing of the turnout gear as well. Yeah.
Right, and then your workout room, and then the other bathroom there.
Yes, and there's a we got to have the workout room. That's provide a little area for that as well. We've worked hard to establish that program, and they do use it quite a bit. And then what is not converted internally, the older bunk rooms could probably be converted into offices, waiting for phase 2 type of project.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. It'll free up some room there, maybe some office space or whatever you feel, so. Yeah, I mean, if it's an immediate need, that's a good design for it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I love a good infographic. I'm going to put this up on my fridge.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to
Yes,
put it up
please.
on my fridge. It's going to be
Yes,
admired.
it's just to share a little information
you.
again of all the work we do, and
Great
we
work.
do keep track of it. I could have provided you all kinds of infographics, but yeah.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I love
All right.
it. Thank you so much.
We've also had discussions about phase 2, about if it gets to there, that we do a little bit more research about some in-house work that could be done to amend how phase 2 goes, to fix up the kitchen and common areas.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Oh, quickly? Okay. I'm always lobbying on the part of legislation that's out there right now, and there is a bill proposed in Washington, D.C. that will provide another potential source of grant funding. It'll operate a lot like the AFG program and SAFER program, but it's earmarked specifically for renovations of fire stations, EMS facilities. So it's $750 million that's going to be appropriated towards that program, but it's a competitive program. It's countrywide, so and it's costly to build facilities now. So we will, if that is approved, and Senator Reid is a co-sponsor of it, and I will be down there next week lobbying with the fire chiefs to promote it. If that is passed, be sure we'll be putting in a application.
Great.
So just a little tidbit of
Thank you.
information.
More information is in the update on that, about the chief going down there to meet with the district.
Great.
It would be
Great.
shocking if you didn't get that grant.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of competition. Yeah.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
Stanley's are rooting for you, too.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you for your
All right,
time.
thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the police budget. So Chief Corrigan?
Good evening. I have 0 slides. Okay, so start with operating? Yes. Okay. So the,
Hey, Jim, since you have your members before the fire department leaves, we had an event yesterday that I know DPW, the firefighters, and police, so you want to give some I'll let the chief update everyone because I know everybody pitched in, so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody and have you.
Yes, thank you for asking. There was a lot of commotion in town yesterday. The departments townwide worked together. Fire had their hands full in this event. One of our firefighters was injured, mostly overexertion, severe dehydration. He was taken to the hospital. He's okay. He was released at 2 a.m. He's fine. I spoke to him this afternoon, so he'll recover. He's thinking he'll be back to work his next shift in another 4 days. So I just want to thank you for everybody who's helped in that event yesterday.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Say one more time, I know the chief mentioned it, but he's right, all the departments did pitch in. DPW was there, Parks and Recs, they had their rakes and picks and axes, and everybody was working together. And then, of course, we had the neighboring communities of South Kingstown, North Kingstown, Carolina. So the chief is preparing a response from the town, thanking all of them for their service. And we have also sent firefighters to assist in West Greenwich for a large brush fire.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Okay. So the first budget up is for dispatch. Most of these lines here are all payroll associated with. We have 9 full-time dispatchers. We have mandatory minimum staffing, 2 per shift. The only exception to that is between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. So if somebody gets held in midnight shift, we can cut one person loose at 3 a.m. Otherwise, that's all staffing. The only couple discretionary items that are on the list here, we reduced. So if you don't have any questions, I'll move on to the next budget line. The next budget line is our civilian non-sworn employees, which include my executive assistant, prosecution clerk, and the IT specialist. He's part of the IT department, but his pay comes out of the police department. And then we have 3 part-time employees, which are custodian David Spears, custodian Christopher Baker, and a public records clerk, Christine Smith. So those items are all payroll here. And then we have some seasonal wages as well for our CSO program. You see that there's a bump in that line due to a pay increase for them. But I'm going to slightly adjust this because we are going to have 15 instead of 18 this year. We didn't get as many applications. So that number would be a little smaller. And any questions on that budget? So our administrative budget is next up. This is the payroll items on here is for myself and 2 captains. And then we have all of our, a lot of our operating budget lines come out of here. Most of the first page that comes from the collective bargaining agreement for pays for my 2 captains and myself who's not collective bargaining. We had a small reduction for tuition reimbursement, a small reduction for our professional services. Reason for that being we are caught up on all our promotional testing now, so I will need to do that next year for sergeant, lieutenant, whatnot. Next page over. There is an increase for fire protection. That is for the repairs to the sprinkler system. So I think that is just based on the activity that we've had, that line that was increased. You look down to licensing dues, 50311. There's a bump there. That was due to us. We need to purchase this program called NetMotion software to provide for cybersecurity for the body cameras. Next, this expense will be reimbursed as part of the body camera grant that we have. So that line will be a slight increase, but nearly level after that grant. There's an increase on employee recruitment. That's been a struggle for us, is getting people to apply to be police officers. We've put a team on it. We've been going to events, but we need to invest a little bit more money in what we do for recruitment now. So if there's no more any questions on that page, I'll move on to the next page. Let's see. Increase for just the cost of gasoline increase for the equipment repairs. That increase is primarily due to the cost of our Motorola radio service agreement that we have annually. That's been increasing. And then there's an increase for building repair, and that's just been due to the fact that the cost for plumbing and for mechanical and all of that has just been going through the roof. So same service has just been more expensive. Any questions for the administrative budget? No? Okay. So moving on to the patrol budget. This line covers 34 sworn members, 20 patrol officers, that's 6 on each shift, 2 swing cars, that's 7 p.m. to 3 a.m., 3 members of the community service unit, which is the housing officer, and the 2 school resource officers, 1 assigned to the high school, 1 assigned to the middle school. We do a 50-50 split on the cost of the housing officer with the rental registration fee, and we do a 50-50 split on the second SRO with the school department for the middle school resource officer. 6 sergeants and 5 lieutenants, 1 for each shift, a prosecution lieutenant and the new administrative lieutenant who's doing the body cameras, police accreditation, and training for the department. So most of the lines on here, just practically all of the lines here, is all payroll, and it's all controlled by the IBPO, collective bargaining agreement. Oh, no.
Chief,
Yes.
I have one thing to add, and I know that Jim and you and Peter Cummings are working on this right now, but just to
Yes.
let the council know, for the agenda on May 1st, I'm asking to look at adding another SRO, so we can
Yes.
also have one at the elementary schools, just to let the council know that Jim's working on it with a job description with the chief and with Dr. Cummings.
Yeah, so this would be coming out of this budget, and that would be another 50-50 split with the school department.
Chief, I just have a question.
Sure.
The line item 50115, the clothing allowance, there's a 399% increase. I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, that is a change. It's not an increase in cost. It's what's occurred is that I think you've consolidated from the other budget lines all into one. So you'll see clothing allowance and other budgets being reduced, and it all got pushed over here. And that's because we changed our system. Before, everything was like a purchase order system. Now they do a cash payout to the officers on their clothing allowance.
I did want to thank you for your notes. They're really helpful on your
You're
line
welcome.
items.
Any questions on patrol? Okay. Next is the investigations budget. This is for 5 members. We have a lieutenant, a detective sergeant, and 3 detectives. One of those 3 detectives also serves as a juvenile officer doing the juvenile prosecution. One of those positions has been vacant since December when Detective Severe retired. We're down in staffing right now. We're down about 6 officers. I got 3 in the police academy, 2 on military deployment, and then I have the vacancy from the officer that retired from community policing. So we're leaving that detective spot vacant until we have manpower to fill it. So that's all payroll lines there and investigations. If you don't have any questions, I'll move on to the next line. Next budget up is the animal control officer position. This funds 1 full-time animal control officer who's Council 94 and 1 part-time position that we recently filled. So with the exception of a training line in here and a couple small equipment lines, this is all payroll.
Chief, is a part-time officer on the weekends, or is anyone on the weekends right now?
The animal control officer? Yes. Yes, he works on, he does some hours on Sunday and some hours during the week. So I think it works out to 20 to 25 hours a week.
Thank you.
Yes. Any questions about the animal control officer budget? No. Okay. The next budget up is the harbor master. Everybody's familiar with Kevin Carnes. He does a fantastic job. Takes that problem completely off my plate. He just knows the job so very well. So everything in here is payroll with the exception of some expenses that he has for just running the harbor master boat and, some of the other work that he does out on the water. Everything is pretty much level funded with, you see a big increase for gas, and that's just a price increase there. So if there's no questions, I'll move on. Good. Okay, so that takes care of all my operating budget. Moving on to capital. We have fleet replacement. That number there is for three units, three cruisers, $42,615 each for a SUV, and then $16,000 is for the total for new radios for each vehicle. And then there is a cost of $18,463 per vehicle to outfit them with their all the equipment that each cruiser needs, which includes radar and the cargo box, the bag that holds the officer's long gun, light package, and the rest that comes standard for all vehicles. Any questions? The next item up is what our MDTs, mobile data terminals. These are the computers that are on our cruisers. These allow the officers to do reports in their cars, write citations in their cars, run license checks, criminal background checks. And that figure is for 3 to go into each of the vehicles. Next item up is we don't have any body armor requests this year, so that's an unfunded capital line. Animal patrol vehicle is unfunded. And then we have a capital line for radios. This is for portable radios. That figure will purchase 14 portable radios, and that will complete that capital line. We've been doing a replacement since the model of Motorola radios that we have been discontinued since, I believe it was 2019 when they stopped making spare parts for that. So every year we've been purchasing radios to get those replaced. So this will complete that. Any questions on that? Tasers, no taser requests this year. And then, let's see. This was an ARPA line that didn't get funded. Next up is we are requesting some money for our firearms training and response program. We want to purchase a couple of rifle-rated shields. These are portable shields that the officer would have if you ever had a situation like happened in Uvalde, where you get a suspect who's barricaded in a room and you're going to be taking fire coming in. This shield will stop rifle rounds. And then we have, in addition to purchasing 2 of those, we want to purchase these. They're force-on-force training equipment. They're the handguns, long guns that they look like real firearms, and they perform like real firearms, but they shoot non-lethal rounds, and this allows us to do training scenarios where we can actually shoot at each other and create very realistic scenarios. Any questions in that line? No. Okay. I believe the rest of my lines are not funded, so that's the last item I have. If there's any questions?
Any questions from the council?
Very
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, next budget is Public Works. Mr. Dano.
Good evening, council members. I'm going to attempt to be faster than the chief was. I know that,
Which chief?
Chief Corrigan. I know Christine has quite a bit to go over, so. My operating budgets, if you go through them quickly, the biggest change you're going to see is cost of fuel. You have your standard increases because of salaries and whatnot, and then we're able to, that's on the admin. If you go to recycle, the next page, we were able to reduce the budget by 50%. And that was, part of that was because we no longer do the fee collection and billing that we were doing before. We have everything go through Rose Hill now instead of going up to resource recovery. And we did, by using our recycling coordinator to work with Chief Partington, she's part-time, so she had to split her hours. So that reduced her payroll on our side. She still worked her regular hours, but the other half was covered through EMA. So we were able to save some money there through salary for her position. So if you go to the next one, you have Public Works Facility. That has a major increase because we hired a full-time person. So, which took took a couple times, a couple attempts to make it happen. But I think we're going to realize that it's a good investment. The person started 2-3 weeks ago, so we're already seeing good changes in that department. So he's our first full-time staff member since Ray DeFalco, who worked here over 10 years ago. So that's why there's the increase. If you go to highway, there's the standard salary increases, obviously, but in fuel costs. But the biggest increase for repairs is more like there's equipment repairs, 36%, and roadway repair. It's just because of the cost of everything going up. Our road materials, pipe, the whole Miozy thing because of costs going up. So we experience the same growing pains as well. The next page is Public Works Vehicle. We increased the equipment repair and vehicle repair. We're seeing a trend of maintenance costs going up as well. Parts are harder to get, they take longer to get, prices go up. And things, as they get older, they break down more often. So we raised it up even higher just to cover ourselves. We're hoping it doesn't reach that, so, but we don't want to get caught unprepared. And then that's pretty much my operating. If you have any questions, that's pretty much standard. Then we'll get into the meat of the capital items.
I just have one question about the whole gas. I mean, I understand that gas has gone up.
Yes.
But I would have thought that the percentage would stay the same across all of the, not just in your department, but in all the departments in the town. So I was wondering if we could at least understand, and you might not know the answer to this right now, I don't need it right now, why it would be different within a department or outside of a department. Certainly there would be an increase, absolutely there's an
Right.
increase, but one of them's like 56%, another one's 25%, another, so looking at the percentage, not the actual numbers, it would seem to me that those should be pretty uniform.
Well, I didn't just do a blanket. I looked back at the averages over the last few years, included that, and then increased from there. So that's why they're all different. So it was on the actual use over the last several years, just to bring the budget more in line. So I took what the actuals were over the last few years.
Okay.
It kind of came up with an average and then increased.
So this isn't just about increases?
It's not just a straight increase. I look at what
Yeah.
was actually
Okay.
spent over
Okay,
the last
because
few years.
I mean, that's good that you did that, because it's really,
more
good to
accurate.
see that, and it's more accurate.
Right.
But I just want to,
Every year it gets closer and
because
closer.
it was, everybody is saying it's increase, but it's really not. It's how usage has been over time, plus increase.
Plus a little
Right,
increase.
Got it.
correct, you have
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, sorry, I'm just going to go
Yes.
back. So I don't know if I didn't hear you correctly or not. You said there was an increase. So going back to the Public Works, General Public Works Highway budget,
Yes.
you had said there were increases in equipment repair and roadway repairs. Did I hear you correctly? Because it looks like negative 36 and negative 10, like a reduction.
In highway?
Yeah, it looks like equipment repair and roadway repair. Is that what you were, in Public Works Highway?
Well, yeah. I was thinking of capital. We actually
Okay.
reduced those
Yeah,
numbers.
all right, so
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
correct in here, okay. That's-
Because fleet handles a lot of those repair costs as
Okay,
well.
all right, but this is the correct budget.
Yeah, I
it's
misspoke on
reduced.
that.
Okay, perfect.
You got me.
Oh, and I was just like, am I not, reading this right, but thank you.
Okay, good. So moving on, DPW 1, garage building renovations and improvements.
Chris, can I just have one question? This should be the same for all the rest of them. It's not specifically for this one, but if I'm looking at this, I'm in the last page of the general public works.
The vehicle, the fleet maintenance?
Yeah, the vehicle. Is that is that the total budget right here? In other words, like if I'm looking at this first column, 2022, you actually spent this $2,935,000. Am I correct to assume that?
That's his whole department.
Right, that's what I mean. This is
Yes,
his whole.
this is his
okay, so
whole
it's-
That's not the whole.
The next budget was the original one, the ask was $3,000,004. Okay, and then the next one, the revised stayed the same. The 23 actual was $2,322,000. That was what actually was spent.
That's current
the-
right now. That's
Yeah.
as of the
As
print
of
date
now.
of 3/28.
Right.
That's
and
what
that-
they've
And that's going
spent.
to end, so we're continuing this year?
Yes, the
So-
year, the 2023 actual is going to end June 30th.
Okay, so there's more
That's gonna
to
go
come
up,
for
yeah.
that, right, okay, that's fine. So that's the only one that's actually a partial, let's say. And then your projection, that's your estimate, it's 3.4, and the town manager's portion is another 3.8. That's another estimation.
The projection in this is not working 100% because the system, we don't use all the modules in the system. We don't have them all, we don't use them all, so the projection most of the time is just what was budgeted. I do a projection on the side, because we don't use salary, we can't use salary and benefit projections
Yeah.
because the system's not set up for that.
Right,
And
okay,
everything else
that's
is
fine. So
basically, yeah,
that's
that,
more of an
so
estimate
you
or
would just
whatever it
ignore
is.
that in my mind,
Okay,
I
yeah,
would
so
suggest.
the only concrete one is that the 2022 is an actual,
Mm-hmm.
the 2023 is not quite there yet, but you can divide by whatever it may be to get some sort of an estimate. And the projection is, that is what it is, right? It's not quite.
It
it's
usually
an
just comes
estimate.
in as, this projection in this system, our financial system comes in usually as what was the budget, what's the budget? It doesn't work properly because we don't use all the modules
All right.
to make it work properly. So that's, I can't change that, this is a canned
No,
report.
I get it, that's
Yeah,
fine.
so
just
I would
wanna know what I'm
ignore that
looking at.
column.
I can, if it's an
Ignore it.
adjustment, I can
Yeah,
understand that. And
yeah.
the 3.8 is what the town manager's making his estimate for the whole year.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'm just trying to find the disparity of the numbers of what was actually spent, up to this year, and then I can at least understand the future portion of it.
Perfect. Yep.
I mean, this isn't just about this.
No, sure.
No,
You
it's
know,
the
this
whole-
third night
it's
of
the
this,
whole
I'm
report.
just trying to figure it all out, so, yeah, okay.
Yep,
I got it, I'm all set. That's what I thought, I just wanted to verify it, so.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so for the DPW 1, it's facility upgrades, Westmoreland Street and Avis Street facilities. Sign machine plotter, our sign machine is pretty old. Dan won't even let us do anything to the computer that runs it in fear of it collapsing. So we budgeted for a new plotter, and that software will work on our current computer. Not the old one, but the new one that's in that office. Shop lighting is to finish LED lighting throughout the garage portion, and I'm looking into getting some funding through Rhode Island Energy, like we did for Town Hall, to do the LED changeover. So I'm looking to try to get those fixtures donated. We were only paying for labor, so that number should go down. Security upgrades, 80,000 is a start. We're way overdue for security upgrades at that building. Everything's pretty much wide open. People could come and go as they please. Sometimes there's more cars going in and out of there on a weekend when no one's around. So that's necessary. Heating upgrades for Avis Street. Now, Avis Street, I know that we're looking at possibly for affordable housing and whatnot. So if something happens where they are able to get rid of that property for affordable housing, they'll obviously have to find property first to house all our stuff that's there, because that's our overflow lot. That's where all our stockpiles are. So any work at Avis Street, I'm going to push down the line a couple years to just make sure that I don't want to invest money for no reason. So we're going to push that further down to like maybe 25, 26 towards the end of that. And then we have comfort station renovations. The men's room we did in-house, we need to do the ladies' room, and we need to do the floors. And the floors I'm looking at doing, like Parks and Rec is doing in some of their public restrooms, is really durable, good stuff. So a lot of people use that building in the summertime especially. It's right near Pear Market, and it gets a lot of use. So we're looking at doing that work in-house, if possible. So we're trying to save money wherever we can. Is there any questions on this particular one? Okay, so we'll go to DPW number 2 is continuation of the project for storm drain repairs. We have a lot of areas in town that have the corrugated metal pipe that was put in back in the day that have rotted out, and the bottoms are all rotted. And we're looking at, as we find those, we have George Sherman replace what we can budgetary-wise. And so that's all this project is.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
As far as possible funding, have we looked at the, Resilient Roadie program that we have with the Infrastructure Bank to see if we could find some sort of funding, either grant or low-cost loan money?
We are looking into some of that, and there's also going to be, there was a notice not too long ago from the state that they're trying to, how much was that? Governor McKee is going to be putting in for a certain amount of money, and each town may get up to 300,000 and change. So we're hoping to apply that to either our road bond project or some of this infrastructure stuff. So Jim's always got me on the lookout for bonds and grants and whatnot.
That's the site readiness grant?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
We had also applied for a Rhode Island, or not a Rhode Island, Infrastructure Jobs Act, IIJA,
Right.
for Envine Estates, but because we didn't, it didn't affect a larger audience, population, it was not feasible, so, because our jobs are fairly small compared to what they want to fund.
Yeah, a lot
And
of
we
the-
couldn't even answer a lot of the questions in the application, that they weren't feasible.
A lot of the stuff that we're applying for grants, they're looking for major projects that are a lot bigger than what we have ready to go. So, but we still try. We still look, we still try. So this is just a continuation of this particular project. Any questions on this one, number 3? Number 4 is to actually, I turned the page early, didn't I? Number 3 is repair, maintain sidewalks, curbing. This is our general pavement management outside of the road bond. Sidewalk repairs, curbing, micro paving, stone sealing, crack filling, repave, reconstruct, other roads, partial repairs that aren't on the road bond, roads that aren't on the list. And we're looking at doing this spring. I've met with Seal Coating to get going on some crack filling through town. We'll probably spend a good amount of money on that. And we're going to have our repaving, our road reconstruction with Miozy starting soon. I issued them POs on Monday. I gave them Phase 3B1's POs at the current rate. That way they could get started regardless of what the council decides at the next meeting, because they do intend to continue working. So this is just a continuation. We always ask for 700,000, and we worked it down to 450 to be able to spend it feasibly. Any questions on that one?
So, Steve, that 2.6 million for the roads.
That's further down.
Okay, I wanted
Yeah,
to.
yeah, that's number 5 or 6.
Obviously, that's a big, the residents constantly talk about the roads in Narragansett. They don't love the patching. They want to know when their roads are going to be done. And I
Right.
have to say, some of the roads are really bad.
Right, we have the full evaluation from Beta, and, well, we're almost to that one. I'll talk about it when
I
we get
just
there.
want to make sure we talk about it.
Yeah, we will, it's on here. So that was number 3, and then if you guys are good on that, we'll go to number 4. Number 4, I'm putting in for a additional wood chipper. Our current wood chipper is like a 2004, and it's getting pretty beat, but the other thing I'm concerned about is hurricanes, storm events, ice storms. When that happens, we only have the one chipper, and you can't find one to rent. Everyone's, they're gone as soon as they hear a storm's coming, they're getting rented. So this way, I have the trucks and the staff, I would be able to have 2 crews out there clearing roads instead of one, or one stacking brush up while the other's working. So it's to try to be more productive and efficient. And then we also have a backup. That's for this upcoming budget. And for 24-25, I'll be putting in for a brush head for our excavator, which would be good for clearing rights of ways, access areas with the equipment where it's really thick and really swampy. Doing around the perimeter of like the wastewater treatment plant, it gets all grown in. We really should have a clearing around that to, even if it's just for fire safety, if something was to happen, you need to be able to get in there. So that'll be in the next year's request. Any questions on number 4? Okay, number 5. This is the one Stanley Wojciechowski really likes. It's about trucks and equipment. So we're looking to replace in 23-24, this upcoming budget, a pickup truck with a snow plow. It's to replace a 2007 pickup, 16 years old. It's pretty beat. We've refurbished it a couple of times. And it's just, what gets us is the rust, the salt air, and the salt that we use. And that one's, we're looking at $65,000 at this point. And the next thing is, the big ticket item is a international, one of the big plow trucks to replace a 2005 18-year-old frontline snow and ice response vehicle. That's for $255,000. I talked to the dealer today, and he said it's a pretty good estimate, so I'm not expecting to come back and say, oh, no, it's $300,000 now. So we're trying to keep it low. But the good news is, after this truck, we have a few years of not needing the bigger trucks, because we'll be in pretty good shape. So moving on, we won't be hopefully asking, well, we'll be probably asking about sweepers and vectors and things, but it won't be plow trucks. And then, so like moving on for the next second and third year, it's additional pickup replacements in motor pool vehicles. Just due to age and rust and rot, we have a pretty good fleet maintenance team. We actually do our own, we're now doing our own emissions inspections too, because it's hard to get appointments now for the smaller vehicles. So we're now doing our emission testing in-house for our own vehicles only and our bigger vehicles. So we're actually saving the town money by doing that. It worked out pretty good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So as far as, we spend a lot of money on the trucks or the plows, and the salt or the fresh air is ruining them over time. Is there a plan for the future to kind of, because we've spent so much money over the years in DPW, as far as protecting them so that we take care of those assets?
Right, so we have a pretty proactive program right now. That's why we've gotten 15, 18 years out of these trucks. A study was done, I found it online, and the previous director, I don't know if you remember Gary Tedeschi, back in early 2000, there was a college that did a study on public works vehicles, public works, police, fire, municipal vehicles. They recommended replacement at 7 to 10 years based on cost of maintenance, upkeep. Damage was minimal because that would be insurance claims, but they did a whole cost-benefit analysis that after 7 to 10 years, you're actually losing money or you're spending the same amount. Yeah, you're not buying a new vehicle, but now your fleet maintenance went up to $300,000. So basically, by doing what we do, we wash the trucks after every storm. Now, this will be our 3rd year. We treat the frames with fluid film and New Hampshire oil. It's an oily residue that sticks to the frame, and it helps protect it from the rust, the salt, and we do that twice a year. So we put it on the lift, we pressure wash the frame, we spray it in the fall, right before winter, and we do it again in the spring. And after every snowstorm, we're washing trucks. That's what the guys are doing, because it's cold out, they can't do any road work on an icy road, so.
Because none of them can be stored inside, right? I mean, those are two.
I don't have the
big
room
buildings.
anymore.
Yeah.
I'd like another building, $2 million or whatever. If there's a grant out there, that'd be great. But Dave O used to talk about too, if you got to spend $1 million to save $1 million, we got $1 million or $2 million worth of assets sitting outside in the weather. And it just, it deteriorates everything. So, but we're doing the best we can with what we got, and we have a pretty proactive program. So I think it works pretty good. Any more questions on number 5? Okay, so let's go, yes,
This one?
number 6? Absolutely.
Okay. Again, I'll repeat what Mr. Tierney said. This is based on the ARPA money mostly. There's a little bit in here for the exterior facade renovations from the $20 million bond that was authorized, and that will be coming up in the bond discussion in a little bit. But this is all fluid, so if you don't mind waiting on this one till I do the ARPA later, that would, because this changes daily,
This is where most of the ARPA funds were
taken from.
reappropriated, so we're just using this number
Yeah.
as our wish to see what we end up with for town hall.
That was easy.
Do you want me to do that one too?
So I believe, yeah, it's the road bond. Just, I could give you a quick update, which I already have. Major road construction projects. Miozy was issued bids, quote POs for 3B1, which is ready to go right now. They also submitted pricing for 3B2, which will be done in the fall. And they submitted pricing for, because we weren't able to get the grants for Envine Estates drainage, they submitted pricing for that because we can use the bond money for that. And I plan on having them do that sometime between the spring and the fall. And you'll be seeing that for the next council meeting when they come up. That's all the pricing that's in there. So that stuff's going to happen. Susan was asking about these roads that are falling apart. They're terrible. We did a full road reevaluation last year with Beta Group, and they scored all the roads worst to best. And then we came up with a list based on road conditions and locations of phase 4 and 5 to continue for this bond that residents were recently approved. So that whole program is going forward. Come 10 years from now, I'm sure we'll be in the same boat. We won't have enough money to finish those phases 4 and 5, but it's an ongoing process that we're just going to keep going, doing our roads. And a lot of the road companies that I talk to say that we have some of the roads that have been done are great condition compared to a lot of other towns, the ones that have been done.
The ones that have.
And the reason why a lot of these older roads are falling apart is because they were old cow paths, there were roads that were dirt, that were just oiled. They didn't have a good base, they didn't have good drainage. And so as we're doing these roads, we're spending more money, but we're doing them right. We're ripping them up, we're doing full drainage, full base, gravel underneath, stone, and putting a good asphalt top on it. So we're, at least the roads we're rebuilding quality roads right now. So these roads should last a lot longer, more than any of us are working here. But that's what I wanted to say about that. And you can take
Yeah,
over
and
the
then
rest of that.
the road phases there and the road, what did they do, the company Beta?
They
The
did
road
the
analysis.
road evaluation.
That was all submitted with the $20 million bond referendum that went forward. All the phased roads were listed in there.
Right.
And, yeah, labeled as such as what was emergency, what phase 3, phase 4, phase 5.
Yep.
Yeah. And this $2.6 million is not in the budget yet. This is something that would go if you authorize us to move forward with a $4.2 million bond issuance next year. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Is the 2.6, that's part of the new the new bond, or the old one?
That's the last of the old one.
That's the last of the old one, okay.
It's been sitting there.
And that's
We've been spending
3
it.
and 4?
We've been spending it every year. As fast as they can do the roads, we do it.
And you're going to try to go as far as you can with 3 and 4 with that
With that,
2.6?
no, 3 and 4 is the 2.6 is going to help us finish phase 3B-5 and
The ones before
3B-6.
that, okay.
Phases 4 and 5 is the 15 million that is voted upon.
Okay,
And we're
that's
going to
a
run
new
out of
one,
money
right.
before we finish that, but that's down the road,
Right, I
way
got
down the road.
Thank you.
And that is all that I had for my budget, if you have any other questions.
Any other questions? No? All set.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Okay, you want me to stay
you,
here while
Steve.
you go over bond? Road bond, are you good? You good? All right. Yes.
No, I'm all set.
Oh, you said thank
Yeah,
you.
I
All
said
right.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is,
Sure. Yeah, I'll
Finance
just
Department.
hit briefly on Galilee Landing. That's a pretty static budget. We were able to increase the revenue for 2024 because it's been going up, and Mr. Tierney will talk a little bit about the legislation that was passed. But it's basically for the details, special details, and then they do the baskets, the hanging baskets, the plants there, and decorations. That's really all they spend is $15,500 out of that. Everything else is town-driven. I don't know if you want to speak about that, or?
Well, the council had last proposed that we ask our representatives to sponsor the bill, and the council issued the resolution to increase the Galilee landing fee. Right now, it was 35 cents per landing. It's now 50 cents. It matches new shorehams. And going forward, we'll watch. This will be our first year where we're getting the check, which we get in May. Is it May, Chris, we get it?
Usually around May, end of May, beginning June. Yes.
So we don't know the impact of that yet. We'll know because they don't report to us quarterly. They give us the one check, and we'll know what impact that extra 15 cents had on the fund. And we probably will have that. We might have that before the budget adoption. Depends on the state.
I mean, Chris, did you say that we pay for the details or the state pays for the details?
No, we pay for our detailed
We
police
pay for the
officers.
detail.
Out of that fund.
It's 2 police officers? Or 1? How does that work?
There's a police officer assigned to the detail for the ferry landings. It's one
a
officer
duty, so,
usually.
yeah.
If there's an issue and the police chief sees an issue, they'll address it, but normally it's one officer.
The whole day? For the whole day, whenever this,
Boats going
It
in and out, it's
it
crazy.
coincides with the ferry schedule, pretty
Okay.
much.
Anything else on Galilee Landing? It's all self-funded. Okay. All right, on to the finance. So I'm going to try to do all this at once, here with 2 hands. So, okay. How come it's not going? Okay. If you can try to figure that out while I move along. So, is it ready to go? So the finance office is looking for, everything else is pretty static, but I'm requesting a pension OPEB FTE, which I'll discuss a little bit further, a little bit further down the road here. For the whole finance department, which is accounting, tax assessor, and tax collection, and finance, and purchasing, we have a 6.7% increase in the budget, and that's basically due to, obviously, compensation and collective bargaining agreement costs. And the statistical reval is on for this year, so that increased. And we had a slight increase in contracted services because with our new software vendor for utility billing and tax software, they do not do printing and mailing. So we have to find another contractor to do the printing and the mailing of those bills next year. Yeah, it's not working. All right. Any questions?
right to the last slide.
That's really all there is different from here. It was a 6.7% increase. Everything's static.
So are we going to talk about that position, or is you going to wait until?
No, I was going to talk about that when we get to the OPEB and
Okay.
pension.
So I'll address that then.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, okay. So this is the transfers now and miscellaneous things. So this is just a graphical showing most of our transfers is the school department, 72% in debt service and OPEB. For the general transfers and miscellaneous, the library asked for a slight increase of 136, which now is 108,000. They changed that at their budget meeting. The school department increase is 1.27%. They asked for 1.39. I just want to say that at their March meeting, but we have it budgeted right now at 1.27. The peer marketplace, which we'll talk about.
Oh.
In a little, yeah.
Sorry, I was just.
It's okay. I'm recommending a $200,000 transfer. That's in the transfers. That's why I'm talking about it now. Then on the general townwide, there's a slight increase due to insurance. And then the contingency is level funded. So that handles that portion. I know there are questions about the peer market, but besides peer market, are there any questions?
Can I just ask a general question about transfers? If we, if the amounts, the actual amounts come in lower than the transfers, what happens to the money? So in other words,
There is no lower amount. It never comes in at a lower amount. These transfers are given to, the school transfer, if that's what it is, there's a monthly journal entry that we journal to the school accounts every month. For the debt service, every month we divide it by 12 and make a journal entry. And we need 3.4 million in debt service this year. That's what we need. So we're transferring that right over. Capital, you just saw all the capital, that's what we need, that gets transferred. So there is no lower cost that it comes in as. The OPEB contributions, that's already determined. We have to meet that number. It just,
But so I'm guessing.
the only way it wouldn't go is if you didn't want to fund something. But a lot of this you can't not fund.
So, well, I guess what I'm thinking about is if you look at the Conservation Trust, Land Conservation Trust, the funding that gets transferred over, it actually, if they use the cash for something in a given year, that's fine. If they don't, they have a fund that holds the money, right?
Oh, correct.
So that's I guess what I'm saying. So any place that is given a transfer, the transfer remains with wherever it goes.
Oh, yes.
Regardless of whether they technically spend it or not.
Yes.
Okay, that's.
Sorry about that. I
That's
didn't
okay, that's
understand it
all right,
that way.
that's
Yep,
all
you're correct.
My language isn't always.
No, that's okay.
Chris,
You should
just
have it.
one question. When you say the transfers, does that come out of the town's, lack of a better words, cash account, cash on hand account?
Right,
And-
come
and
out of
you're
the general
calling
fund operating budget.
General fund, right,
Yep.
operating budget? And then that's at what, how much is that now?
I think we're at, 69 million, the request is right now, for the town operating budget.
Yeah, no, I mean the cash on hand to transfer to that.
That is, that's not how
I
it
guess would be
works.
the contingency fund, I guess.
No, that's contingencies for something that's not planned and it's an emergency. We have
That doesn't
cash,
move.
and we have this thing called pooled cash. So it's like a due to, due from, and the cash is just one account,
And that's what this is?
all cash, everybody's cash.
Right.
School
Okay, I
department,
see what
wastewater, water. So we have a lot of cash.
Right.
Right, we have over 69 million in cash, because you got the water, wastewater, beach, they all have cash. So it's, and that, do you understand what I'm saying? Then they have a due to, due from?
Yeah.
Okay.
The transfer, though.
It just
what-
doesn't, yeah, the transfers, every month they come out of our cash.
Okay, that's what I meant. Right.
Yes, the cash, they come out of the cash, and it's, we don't take money, we just do it on paper. Because
Right.
the money's in one account,
I got it.
okay?
Thank you.
It's just paper, yeah. Any other questions?
I do have one other question. I'm sorry. I just don't know, what is the super site,
Oh,
557?
that's Rose Hill, the,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Mhm.
And is that forever?
No, it's not
it's a
forever.
Superfund site,
I don't have the schedule with me.
Yeah.
But it's a few more years out.
Okay.
It's a little
Okay.
way.
I thought
But
the
the big
conference
bills, the big expenses have been paid off.
Right.
Now we're just at maintenance
Okay. All
at
right,
this point.
thank you.
You're welcome. Good? All right, so on this, I'll stick with this now, and now I'll talk to you about peer market. So when this first came about, the library project, a fund was created, 0023, called the Library Fund. Susan knows that. And all the expenses were going there, including the rent that we collect from Pear Liquor. And all the electric, all the purchased water, all the fire services, sewage treatment, all that was in that fund. Well, because it took quite a while to go to bond for these things, I had to pull all that out, because it's not a library building yet, it's a town building. So I had to pull all those expenses and put them somewhere else. So I made a fund for them, and there they sit with no money, just expenses. So it's time now to stop funding those expenses. At least it'll be over soon, but it's at a level where I think we should transfer some funds. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. All right. So, oops. This is just a pictorial of our revenues. You can see taxes and our payments in lieu of taxes, pilots, it's 86% of our revenues. This is an ugly screen, I know. Mr. Tierney doesn't like it. But I just want to say that what I'm trying to say here, I hope this works. The takeaway is that if we keep going up at a 2% increase for the next 4 years, the impact on revenue increase, if that makes any sense, is $369,000. So it's going to take you 4 years at 2%. Your growth is only going to be less than $400,000. If you go 4% tax levy increase, you'll see by 2027, your impact is $4.6 million extra, additional, so that can cover your firefighters, that covers new contract negotiations, that covers all these crazy expenses. And if you do a 3%, I figured I'd throw that in there, you can see how the increase to revenue would be $2.1 million. I don't know if you have any questions with that, but
Something to think about.
it's something, in Richard Vangermesh's words, it's long-term planning. So they haven't gone up 4% in quite some time. And so now it's catch-up. It's playing catch-up. And, well, I'll get to that later. But anyways, that's what I'm trying to depict here. Any questions? Okay. So now we'll move on to debt service. So this is just the debt service for this year. And what's our total? I think I said it's $3.4 million. These are our ratios that we follow every year. They're in the audit, and we also report those to the state. And you can see that we're well within these are the allowances. And we're at 0.4 here instead of 2. We can go up to 2.5. And et cetera. You can see we're well within our limits for debt service. And then Mr. Lynch had reported out wanting to see
Chris,
the...
can I ask you a question on the
Yeah.
debt service? So we have the ability to take on more debt if we wanted to, right? So something like the fire station, like that would, by our numbers, by what that says, with the debt we have, we could take that on without really affecting a rating, really, right? Because we have some room on that
We're
debt.
still within the...
Yeah,
Sure.
and
The
we
problem
would
is
be.
having the revenue to support the increase year over year. You can't just go out and say,
With
oh,
the
let's
debt,
go to
okay.
6 million bond,
Okay.
because we have the money, we can, and we're authorized to go to 6 million, but we don't have the cash revenue to pay. Well, I mean, we have the cash, I don't want you to think like that, but we wouldn't be within our budget ranges. Do you understand kind
A
of
little bit,
where
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
going?
I understand.
You can go out with 6 million, but at
the
the, that's going to add another 400,000 to your expenses every year. I'm just giving you a number. Now you have another 500,000 for the 8 firefighters are going to keep
So you
in
have to
2025.
consider the revenue
So you have to
side,
consider,
too.
yeah, exactly, it all
make
works
sure,
together,
right.
yeah. While we can do that, we got to make sure we have the revenue without using fund balance,
Okay,
because you don't want to use fund balance to support operating.
got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So there's the schedule. just to show you. You can see where it goes down over the years, less and less. This is the actual debt service, so that's what Mr. Lynch was asking about. The other night, I talked about the debt service, and I had included future debt. In other words, our $20 million, I had that included in my numbers. So anyways, are there any questions with the debt? Whew. Okay. All right, so here we are, OPEB and pension. We have the town pension. This year, we're funded at 70.5%. The closed police plan, 1666, it went down actually to 77.6, and that was mostly due to the market. There's only 9 people left in that pension. It's a closed pension, so we're okay with that. And then OPEB made a slight increase, so that's good. The actuarial determined contributions, as you can see, they in all, they went up. The town is at 46.6 for most town employees. The police went down a little bit, 0.4%. Fire went down about 8.8%, and the library went down a bit too. But the overall ADC went up. The pension board and finance director make, every 3 years, there's a study, experience study done by Nyhart, the actuaries, and they true up what happened over the previous 3 years to make sure that your assumptions are still in line with reality. And we've slowly been decreasing our expected rate of return. We increased our mortality tables and did a few other things, payroll growth, et cetera. So we keep realigning our assumptions to make them more realistic. And usually it requires more ADC, if that makes any sense.
Chris, what's the reason that the town went up and everybody else went down?
Well, the firefighters, they went down because they had more people. So more people, so they contribute more into it now because they have the 8 new firefighters. We actually decreased theirs a little bit. And the mortality tables, they have a bunch of different things that come into play. Payroll growth, the age comes into play. So there's several different things.
Chris, can you go back to the slide before? Okay, so the percent funded, what is the optimum? You know, I know we've been adding in to play catch-up, so to speak.
100%.
So,
But,
you know, what is, is anybody's at 100%?
Yes, there's people at,
Yeah.
not so much in Rhode Island, not so much in the
Yeah.
East Coast, but there are
Right.
many places at 100%,
Yeah,
yes.
so does that generally go up a little bit every year? The funded
Generally,
part, or does
depending
it,
on
you
the
know-
market,
Yeah.
depending on assumption changes, depending on a lot of different things. There's a local, it's called locally administered pension plan, LAPP, that the state puts out every year. They just put one out. It's still in draft form. I have to review it, but that shows, it ranks everybody's pension plans. You want to be over 60. Not, under 60 is critical.
Right.
And you have to put a funding plan together.
So when we're doing this catch-up, so when we do that catch-up, about what percent is that of the total budget that every year, you know, we need to keep putting in? Is there a percentage of what the total budget is? Like, you know, before we even start anew,
Yeah.
we have to keep, you know, and I agree with it, to keep
Well, it
funding
changes every year, but
Is there an, you know?
I don't have that number with me,
1%,
but there is a
2%?
percent.
What's that?
There is a percentage, I just
Yeah.
don't have it readily available.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's pretty high.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, because that kind of, you know, the budget goes up with other things, and that's one we have to maintain. So, you know, we don't want to change that, but just to see where we
These are actuarial determined contributions. The actuaries tell us what we need to put in to continue to fund this unfunded pension plan, right?
Yeah, I
So
get
they
it.
tell us, and that's, I mean, you can choose not to put in 100%, the council could.
Yeah.
But that's, they've made a commitment past
Right,
to
I understand.
to continue. Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't head down that alley.
No, I'm not even,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I get it. I mean, that's not where I was going. I just want to kind of, just for my own purposes,
I can
know
get you that,
basically
but I
what
don't have
percentage
that
that
here.
is as a total
Yeah.
of the budget that, we should be funding every year. So it's understandable if we have to, let's say, you're looking at the 4% increase, a good portion of that is just to maintain something we should have been maintaining for quite a while.
Yes.
So just as a relative
Yes.
point of it, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to read something from that report, too. Cranston, Pawtucket, Providence, Narragansett, and West Warwick have ADC payments over 10% of their total tax levies, suggesting that the local pension liabilities are or have the potential for crowding out other important budget priorities. So that kind of goes to your question. We're at least over 10% of our tax levy that we have to put into the pension. And I think I've said it the other night at the budget hearing, by what, 2032 or something, we're going to need over $11 million just for the pension. So we're at, it's 7.8, so if you want to try to do the math, we're about that. 7.8 million this year
Right.
to put into the town pension, not counting OPEB or the police pension.
Right. Okay, thank you.
This is just OPEB. The actuarial determined contribution went up 17.9%. That's mostly due to an adjustment in the assumptions, and the market last year was terrible for everyone. So, any more questions with that?
So you're talking about the pensions and the OPEB. But, I mean, I can't help but sit here, it relates to that position. What we're talking about, that we're trying to keep these funds healthy and funded to a certain level, and I just didn't know when the appropriate time was to bring it up, but it seems like we're looking at the OPEB and pension, so it would fit in nicely to that conversation.
Right. So, I don't know where you want to start. What do you want me to defend the position right now?
No, I want to
everything,
just,
or-
if I could, I just want to say, obviously, I support any positions that are added that the town staff needs, so that's, please, you look at my record, I always have supported additional positions. What I'm concerned about is, and I actually have received several emails from constituents that are obviously paying close attention and just concerned about funding a position using, the OPEB and the pension for a position. And so I just, obviously, experts probably would say it's okay, the pension board might even say it's okay. I just wanted you to explain it a little bit, because we've worked really hard to try to get at a good place, and starting a practice where we're going to fund positions out of those funds is concerning to me, so I just want to better understand that.
Right, so I did speak with, well, first of all, I want to say that the recommendation, the request, or in job description is with the solicitor. It still needs to be reviewed by him. It's with him now. I did reach out to Nyhart, and there's plenty of places that do this. There's some that don't. The 60-40 split, pension and OPEB, is an estimate, so that would have to be reviewed, as well as the actual, jobs, what they actually do. They have to keep track of their time for a while. But we would be required, the town would be required to make extra contributions with this position in there. So that position comes into play with the actuaries. They would change the actuarial determined contribution. It wouldn't be if the job was $100,000 and $60,000 was coming from the town pension. It wouldn't be, $60,000 we're going to add to your ADC. Because the actuaries do long-term, right? They go out 20, 30, 40 years out. So they spread it. So there would be an increase to the ADC. There would be a slight increase, negligible, to the pension liability. Again, then you'd have another position contributing to the pension, so it has it up and down. We're going to offer better services.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the position, don't get me wrong. I just was wondering if there was a better opportunity to fund it, like from the general or something.
Well, that's up to you.
Yeah,
That's, if you wanted to do that, that would be fine. I mean, that's up to you. That would
mean,
just,
obviously the
that would
position's
just
needed.
increase the other, the general fund side.
But the experts think, like, they would say that that would be good practice for the town to do that, because that's the biggest thing. I know everybody always watches and asks about the OPEB and the pensions, and I just don't want to, again, this will be
It's
my
not,
final
it's
run on the
not
budget.
unnormal. Yeah,
Because I'll
it-
be leaving, but.
It's something
but-
that's normal.
Okay,
It's,
and so they, the
it-
experts would
it's-
say that's how you should fund it, or you
you have
could
to be
fund it.
very, yeah, and you have to be very careful. There's all regulations, and they can't do just anything. They have to be just pretty much pension and OPEB kind of.
Okay, so we still have a little
Trust,
more work.
a little
on
more
this.
work. I have it, like I said, he's with the solicitor. I'm waiting to hear back from him.
All right, thanks, Chris. I just wanted
Yeah.
people to hear about that.
But Chris, what you also said is that the total dollar amount is not going to be on the pension. The town will take some of that portion, correct?
The town would contribute more to the ADC.
Correct.
So the 46.6 might go up to 46.8. I
Okay,
don't,
yes.
I'm just, example.
Yep.
But the position would then be funded through the,
That's what I'm requesting. It could be
idea, right.
through the general fund as well.
Right,
It-
'cause that could be another option.
I was just saving money with that.
Which is good.
right?
It's a lot of clerical work on the side of the finance director.
How many
know,
hours do you say?
I could free up a quarter of my time easily. We could offer more services to everybody. This year alone, I've done 62 requests. Already, it's April. Some of those requests can take a half a day. It's all manual, an Excel spreadsheet. We have 537 active and retirees. I get pension refunds, I get calculations of purchase prior service time, prior state time, what I say refunds, survivor benefits, estimates, a lot of estimates. Well, what happens if I retire this year, if I retire that year, if I buy 3 years and I retire this year? So it's a lot, and I just think we could offer a lot more benefits. We could have a web page, we could have somebody dedicated, a one-stop shop, instead of sending everybody all around the building to try to get answers for what they
Are there any
need.
services that offer that?
What's that?
Are there any services that offer, those type of, to do those calculations?
We thought about that, and
Subcontractor or
it's
something
not
like that?
feasible with the 3 different systems and the amount of manual, we have to go upstairs sometimes and look in the files, in the payroll records. So it's really not feasible.
So it sounds like an important position. I guess the question is, down the road, is there a better way to fund that position so the town gets what they need and the taxpayers get what they need? So I throw that out. You're the finance director. I'm not that great on the finance. So maybe there's an opportunity to look at other funds that would be a healthier way to go. That's just a thought.
Sure.
And the pensioners deserve some consistency in the whole process also.
Right.
Okay.
But we want you to get the help you need, Chris.
It's just I could do
No,
so many better things, and we could
absolutely do.
offer
We
so many
just
better.
want to make sure we're doing it in the right way.
Sometimes people don't know what they're eligible for, and we can't reach out to them, and because, it's a, yeah. We could go on for an hour, but, I don't know if you want me to move on, or you want to continue talking about that.
I think we can move on.
I'm fine.
You good?
Yeah.
Move it along. Okay, so here was what you got to think about. Get ready. No, this is, I just kind of tried to put it all together because I know 3 nights is a lot. So here's what we're trying to increase. We have the legal expenses, so $30,000 in the solicitor's account, $50,000 in the town council. Legal expense line, those are already in the budget. Community development asked for $52.5 thousand for the brick grant match. That's already in the budget. Boards and commissions, the Economic Development Commission, whatever they are, but they asked for $300 or something. That's not in the budget. That's negligible, if you want to do whatever you want. The town clerk with the renovations and equipment was $11,000. We have the transfers, Pear Market, 200,000. The school department was a 1.27 increase. They requested the 1.39. Debt service, not in the budget, $4.2 million bond. I thought that was reasonable to afford. For next year, it would only be interest at about 80,000, depending on what the rate was. And then in 24, 25, we would pay the first year principal. And that's 2.6 of the old bond, 1.6 of the new bond. Pension OPEB FTE request, about $100,000 estimated. And, oh, there we go. IT, they have water, wastewater, cybersecurity improvements. That's in the budget. Audiovisual improvements to council chambers in the budget. The library, we requested alternate additions for the new building in the amount of $108,068. Parks and Recreation, the playground structure, $60,000. Fence replacement, $100,000, et cetera. Those are all in the budget as it stands now, just so you know. The engineering is the format printer. That's in the budget. Oh, that's a double. Look at that. Audiovisual. We'll take that out. Yeah, no, you're not getting double money. And then special assessment may be possible for the meter readers, the read meters for the water. Police vehicle replacement and firearms training. Fire vehicle replacement, which Mr. Tierney has said might be changed depending on ARPA. And DPW vehicle replacement. IT had the phone system replacement. Wastewater had the main pump generator design. Oh, I'm sorry, this is ARPA now. So now we get into ARPA funding. So the request was for $250,000 in the phone system replacement, $600,000 for wastewater. They originally had $1.25 million. That was given back because they didn't need it, and now they're asking for $600,000. And the fire station 2 renovations, what Mr. Tierney hit on, was that changed again on me. It was 1.11, now it's 1.063 million. And that's about it for that. Do you have any, I know it's a lot, do you have any questions? I have notes.
I have an ARPA question. Just, we've spent some of that money already, right? The ARPA money?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yep.
So just whereabouts are we right now?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a good one.
Because it was 4.5 originally, right?
4.58, yeah.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
that's okay. I'm sorry.
gonna
Didn't
take
mean
me
to
a minute.
stump you.
We have 124,000 on Narrow River dredging, 84,000 on the bike path,
We might have that.
25,000 in housing, 124,000 the fire pumper. We have allocated $1,515,000 to water already, and 38,720 for the front steps at Town Hall, and 197,953 to the IT office. That came in much higher because of the price of everything, and we waited a while. So,
About $2 million.
yeah, we're at about 745,000. Do you have that? No,
No, it's more than
nope, I
that.
missed $1 million somewhere.
I have 2 million.
Yep, I missed $1 million somewhere.
It was 1.5, 385, I think. I can't read my handwriting. I'm rounding 38 and 200-ish. I think that comes out to 2.063 million,
Right,
roughly.
roughly.
So, which gives us about 2,500,000 left to spend.
Right. The
Little
new,
more
the
than
new asks really are the town hall phone system,
Right.
the wastewater, 600,000 instead of 1.25.
Right.
That's for the
Can you put that
generators.
slide- You have that slide with this on it, right? You have a slide with that?
from the other night.
No, you have, I thought you had one here.
Do I have one?
I think you do. Yeah, that one.
Oh,
So that's what's.
that's the new, those are the new asks, right?
So that comes to 1.6, 1.7, about 1.9 something, right?
1.96 looks like.
Yeah. So
The,
that eats up the rest of it, basically.
right, and the real question is with the fire station renovations with,
So what did you want to, Jim, you want to speak to that?
Yes, just briefly, when we had the money that was freed up, the original was freed up from the grind project.
Right.
And that's being reappropriated. The fire station project originally was set at 650.
Right.
It came in obviously much higher. So we will shift some of the ARPA, more of the ARPA over to that. And then whatever we free up from other projects, we'll have some funding. The town hall, what's left of the town hall one we pretty much decided that is whatever's left, if there's anything left, because that's where all the money's been coming from primarily. For any of the ARPA ones that were approved post-initial projects.
Yeah.
Has been coming basically from the town hall project.
Okay. So tonight, we're not making any of these decisions, right? Or are we?
We need some guidance and some
Just-
recommendations to give to.
Digest it.
I just have to kind of know where to go for the next public hearing.
Yeah, so I think if any of the council members want to give their thoughts on any of these, what was discussed over the last few days, anything that they think should be in there, anything they think shouldn't, or some variation of that.
So I have a couple of thoughts. Is that okay? Okay. So one of the things I would say as far as ARPA is concerned is that we might want to just get a document that just shows everything clearly so we can make that decision and maybe not do that right now. I was looking at all of this stuff this afternoon in great detail and came up with some thoughts. And one of the things that I understand that we have to raise taxes, okay, I understand, and we have to raise taxes somewhat significantly. What I was thinking is that we might consider using, well, I was looking at, so we're using, I forget what the number is, but it was 2-point-something million out of our fund balance, right? And I think it was like 2.6 or 2.7, because I was thinking that there's, if we rounded it up to 3 million, or used a combination of adding a little bit more from that fund and also looking at some of the, I look at some of the line items. I do look at all of the line items, which is crazy but true. And, I think there's some ways to kind of take a look at what that's why I asked all these questions. We can take a look at some of the spots there, and even though, you're talking about $400 here or $5,000 or $10,000, and you know that's minuscule compared to the total budget. If you look through and you find enough of that, you can get yourself to like $100,000. I didn't do it, and I haven't gotten it, but if I did, yeah, I think I could figure that out. And so what I'm thinking, I don't think that, and people can change my mind, that would be great, that we want to do anything to the amount that the school district has asked for. I thought they did a pretty good job of explaining what they needed and why. But, I'm open to considering something. I think that if we can move some money that ends up, from ARPA that goes to some of the things that are in the budget, that helps. But I also think that if the departments just looked a little more carefully, or, Jim, if you even look down at some of those things, we might be able to find some savings, just because we are, I know that a municipal budget works differently from a corporate budget, and that you have to be really careful to make sure that you cover your expenses. It's really important. But I sometimes think we might be a little bit too generous in that regard, and we could be a little tighter. And I know that the risk is that you end up with overages, and it's hard in a municipal budget to do that. But I also think that we could be a little tighter. And I'd like to see that happen, just sort of an across the board. I don't have any specifics that I would consider, but if you want, I can do that too. And my thought is that maybe we could take just a little bit off the tax levy. Not a lot, because I know that it just doesn't make any sense, given all the things that we have to do over the next several years. But that's what I'm thinking about right now.
In the past, between the budget work sessions, there's two things, it was more than two, but in two pockets that we address, is that we take the direction of the town council, the consensus is on how to move forward, on what, sometimes we'll also do alternate scenarios if
Right.
there's a major project. But we go again with each of the operating budgets, we go through them again. We've already had several meetings with
Right.
department heads.
Right.
We go through the operating budget again one more time anyway, and capital one more time with the if the council, it's a normal direction, try to reduce
Right.
it, absolutely. As far as the school goes, I feel confident that although they asked for 139, I feel confident that the 127
Oh,
will
that's
be
true, yeah.
acceptable to them.
Okay.
That, and even with the police officer, if the council, if it's the desire of the council to go forward that way. To go below that with the police officer would be tough. But I think the 127 would be doable with them,
So that's what,
with the school resource officer.
I'm thinking of what the difference is. It's like $120,000, something.
From the 127 to the 139?
Yeah, I just couldn't do the math in my
Oh,
head
it's a
because I'm
small
tired.
amount.
It's like 33,000 or something.
It's-
It's small,
it's-
it's
Yeah,
small.
it's nothing.
Yeah, it's
not much.
Yeah, I mean, I
50 or
don't
something,
have an
not a
objection
lot.
to that.
They're like 33,000.
But like you said, if you take 33 there and 33 at other places, it's going to add up to some.
Yeah,
Well, they asked, right, what they're asking for 1.39, and we're giving them 1.27 in the budget. That's only a $33,000, it's higher.
Right.
Yeah, so we wouldn't
Yeah,
give them
so-
the higher price.
And we'll break
That ain't
down
gonna
to
cause-
the council a more final list of the opera funds. The ones that were,
Right.
first, the ones that were approved by the town council for the major projects, the initial, the reduction or elimination of those because of new funding sources or reduced costs for programs. Then we'll add the next phase of the list to show the ones that were post-initial approval. Because if you recall at the beginning, everything was very tight, and we were under the gun to get these ready. And
Right,
then it
yeah.
changed, you can use it for this, you can use it for that, you can't use it for this. And then it was strictly health, welfare, connected to COVID. And it seems to have loosened
yeah,
up quite a
yeah.
bit. So we can get that list to everyone to see what the updated numbers to date are, which will give you a much better grasp on the fluidity of those funds right now.
And there were a few other things, too, through the 3 days that we've seen that
Yeah.
would also be some reductions as well.
Right, because with the benefits,
That benefit.
that's about 132,000, right?
Right.
So that's going to be, reduced there.
That's another reduction.
So that's a
you
reduction.
start putting that together, you might be able to get to that space, if that's, amenable to the rest of the.
We always find
Yeah,
something.
I'd like to digest everything a little bit initially, and like Jim, there's always it's a work in progress, right? So there's always a look at it. If we could get the presentation that you had with all the totals and
Yes.
whatnot, that would be great. So we kind of, we know where to kind of fill it in with what we've heard for the last 3 nights.
And post-meeting, it is a lot of information
Yeah.
for over 3
Yes.
nights. And if anybody has any individual questions about individual items or any research they'd like done, just reach out to us, and we'll look into it. And
Okay.
The two projects that I just want to put out right now, we have the firefighters here, the fire station and the wastewater, I think that for we have to do those. I mean, the IT, I don't know enough about it, Dan, to know about that, but I think we absolutely have to. We
They
probably
will-
have to do the IT as well.
I think so.
Can you get the phones operating all the time here in Town Hall then?
And those were the fire renovations and the wastewater groin and the water improvements. Those were primarily
Yeah.
approved by the town council as being the project.
I can see cuts in this one as well.
Yeah, so
I mean,
there's-
the Historic Society, I give them a lot of props for trying for the 28,000 extra, but I would say no on that.
I had thought about that we could take, I was thinking about what we did with the land trust, if anybody there, with the exception of the senior citizen, South Kingstown. Sorry, anything there that, with the exception of the South Kingstown senior program, which I think there's an adjustment to that too. I would take anybody who asked for a request for an increase and give them half of it, and consider doing the other half next year, just to spread it out a little bit and see what happens as a result of that. Some of those numbers are kind of big, not in the scheme of the universe, they're not big, but they're big compared to what they have now, and I think we need to do that. And I would do the same thing with the Historical Society.
And a couple of the others, the wildlife, I read, I'm sure everybody read, the wildlife for $9,000 are talking about skunks and woodchucks. And skunks and woodchucks are very important, but people right now, I think, are our priority.
Right.
So taking a look at that $9,000, I'd also say the same thing with St. Elizabeth Daycare for $26,000. When the presenter was here the other day, he said there were 4 Narragansett residents. I think that we all know of Narragansett residents who have adult children who could actually use other services, autism, whatever it might be. And I think that the fact that we're paying for 4 families $26,000 is really not where our money should be going. We're directing it into one. So great service. I hate to say it, but when we're looking at dimes and nickels and trying to come up with some money that we could be able to keep our tax levy at base, I think we need to take a look at some of these things.
So the special appropriations, is going to be a discussion because it sounds like we're all over the place. I would say support them all at what we supported them in the last budget, no increase, but whatever we gave them last year, we should support this year. So I think we're kind of far away from coming to a consensus as far as the special appropriations at this time.
Well, I actually concur with just keeping it level, keeping it funded to what it was last year.
Oh, so there's 2 people that think that, but I still think we have to have probably more discussion about it because Jill seems a little bit far away from what I'm thinking.
The Historical Society, we did have some budgeted, they did save some money with saving that building.
Amazing.
So I certainly would be willing to give them some to help the windmill, even though their fundraising's been pretty good. Deb, what was your suggestion, to fund it half of
And
everyone?
half this year, and then see what
50%?
we want to do next year. But, I'm not married to that.
Would you go with the level this year? We gave them
I don't,
last
I mean,
year?
I feel like we should support, we should sort of help out the Historical Society. It's a group that's trying to do something that's very beneficial educationally to the town. But I don't think it's, it should be $24,000. With the others, I can go either way, but I just, some of the suggestions that they gave us or the reasons that they were doing what they were doing made some logical sense to me. So, and then we have a brand new one, the Warm Center, the Welcome House, which is actually an amazingly wonderful organization that does very difficult work, and I would not want to not help them out.
And St. Elizabeth is fairly new over the last few years, too.
That's
so,
true, and I don't
you
know, I'm not sure, I kind of get what Jill's talking about as far as the total number divided by 4, but I don't know if that's, at one point they were doing, I think they said something about services to 11 different people for different things. So
Families, I said. And
but those are and that was just Narragansett people. There was 24, I think, of overall. But that care is expensive. So
It is.
what happens if they don't provide that care to these people, and how? And they're our senior citizens. We have to make sure that we're caring for our senior citizens in this town. So I don't.
Is there any consensus or desire, is there any agency you'd like me to reach out to specifically and maybe have a discussion with them to see if they'd like to amend their request?
Interesting idea.
Which one?
It just seems like Everett's going to have to do item by item on this one.
Which one would it be?
Yeah.
To get
We could,
consensus,
yeah.
because there's a lot of them, there's a lot of different thoughts and ideas, so we're going to have to take one at a time and have a conversation, and take a vote. Do we support this, yes or no? Do we support this? Because it
We could do that,
doesn't sound like philosophically
tonight.
we're close enough.
please. Starving.
Is that something that you need to know right now, Mr. Tierney, or?
I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to call some of them anyway.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. And then I was also surprised that the St. Elizabeth Delta Care Centers only had 4, but I know we've funded them in the past since I've been on council. So, yeah, so there's like a lot of increases and, and I know for the Narragansett Chamber of Commerce, it was because of the COVID, but I think we're getting to a point where I think we're getting out of that. So, and then just the Narragansett Historical Society, I mean, I support them, but they do have, there's grant funding out there. I think, that was kind of where I stood on that one. But anyway, I just aside from the appropriations, I was just going to ask any of the council members if they had any other general thoughts on just all the other items that we discussed over the last 3 days. So I was just going to, Councilor Laurel, you were all set, or?
I think I think we
Okay.
just need to think about
All
the
right, so
appropriations and other
I'll
things.
just make some of my comments if everyone's done. So I did review and I just had some thoughts. Again, I'm sure there's, I think the town staff and our town manager do a really great job putting the budget together, and they really scrutinize everything. Like Councilor Kopek said, there probably is some little tweaking that can be done to find more savings. There are I do support the fire renovation, so I do, and the wastewater, like we've said, that's been important to our residents. Just I think like some of the line items when we were looking at, just the first ones for I think as a council, for the adjustments to legal expenses, I don't know where the council stood on that. I think there was discussion when we were talking about that, about not increasing that. But again, I'm just trying to remember what the general consensus was on that.
There was consideration, I think, with Mr. Tierney, because of the 3 student and the 4 unrelated and the short-term rental, just having enough money to budget, cover that.
Christine and I met again today on it, and we do think those numbers are fairly accurate, especially what may be coming forward. We fully anticipate, no matter what the decision is, with the 3 student, 4 unrelated, short-term rental, there'll be litigation no matter what. I mean, from one side or another, we will have to defend it if that's the case. But we do think that's a good one. Before I will put it, 3 of the things I'd like to just let the council know, we will provide an updated ARPA with the focus on the initial projects that were approved, followed by the ones that have been approved and already, like, the money's there, boom, for the projects that paid for the ones that approved after. So we'll get you an updated list on that. And then some of it will be approximate because the projects are in flux, as you saw. The fire station one, we just got some of the items last week. Revisit all of operating, revisit all of capital, meet with them over the next week or so. And
Okay, and then in terms of the tax levy, the discussion here. So I know it's not a popular thing to do, but I know we have to ensure the future viability of the town. So that's something that we really need to focus on and consider as a council. So it's kind of very alarming when you look at those numbers. So it's something that we definitely have to take action on. I know it's not a popular thing. I'm not up here pandering for votes. I'm here trying to do what's best in the best interest of the town and the future of the town. So that's something that we really need to focus on.
it is, like Christine says, it is a complicated formula. If we use fund balance and we go in at 2% and we keep having expenses.
It's kicking the can down the road. We can't do it.
Just so you know,
Just
too,
have one.
I forgot, Deb, I did do a 5-year average. And this is not just the solicitor, it's all legal services, but just so you know, the average is $234,568 a year.
Their
So-
fees are not brick and mortar, but they're not going to go down either.
Right. So,
I just have one comment on the solicitors. I think, there's a lot of quality of life ordinances coming up, and I think it's time the town spent the money to, defend some of these ordinances And, maybe we need to do a little better job in focusing in on the type of advice for the attorneys we're getting and all that. That would help. But I think it's very well needed, There's, for quality of life in this town, there's really no, I don't want to say there's no cost, but, it's a very important thing in the town for the residents. So I would agree with Jim on that. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. This was a great 3 evenings spent with everyone here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the staff for the hard work, town manager, and thank you to our finance director for doing such a great job. And definitely a lot to digest. And yeah, so we have our work cut out for us. So thank you. So with that, this work session is complete and adjourned. Thank you.